Hey Spooniverse, thanks for tuning in to Mixology 101 with the great Anthony Caparelli, Director of Beverage Studies at the Institute of Culinary Education, and myself, JD, an editor here at Spoon. So it's officially December. It's cold, it's winter, no matter what winter holiday you celebrate. If you've lasted a holiday season, 21 years of age or older, you've tasted eggnog. Although probably I've always had it like store-bought out of the milk carton, and you pour it out and then you see grandma put a little rum in hers, whatever. We're going to do it from scratch, the real deal.
Yeah,
real
drinking eggnog out of paper cartons is like drinking Scotch whiskey out of plastic bottles. You just don't want to do it. So
don't be that guy.
Right. So we're going to go ahead and make actual fresh from scratch eggnog. It's one of my favorite drinks to make. It's a little complicated, but it's definitely worth the effort. And it is a very, very American drink. Most people don't realize that it is actually... It goes back to mixing dairy products and alcohol goes back to Europe hundreds of years. It was very, very common to add things that had additional nutritional value, like protein, milk, things like that, to liquor, so that when you were drinking, you're also getting some food value out of it. Because
two birds, one stone.
Yeah, exactly. But what happened was in Europe, the land was all owned by the wealthy people. You had to be a noble to own land. So that meant farming and livestock were very rare. So when you added something like milk to a liquor, it made it much more expensive and much more valuable. So what happened was when you were drinking things like liquor and milk, liquor and cream, you only did it on special occasions. So it came to denote like holidays and celebrations. Well, now let's fast forward to America. And in America, when was the last time you saw a noble walking around America?
Not recently.
No. The whole thing about America is that we own the land. The people own the land. And so suddenly livestock became something that the average person could have. So chickens and cows, not necessarily something that only the nobles could have. So we not only added like milk and cream, we started adding eggs, which were real luxury. So right there, you can see we have milk, we have eggs, and we have whiskey, and that's all American right there. So you smush them together, but
honestly, might as well make this on the 4th of July.
Exactly, and it was things like this were consumed year round. Yeah. But what happened was we still remembered that tradition of them being associated with celebrations and times of luxury and good fortune. So eggnog specifically became associated with Christmas when you would have people over. You would make it in a big bowl like we're going to make it, and that's where this came from. But the drinks that they originally started, there were things called possets and syllabubs. All these drinks go back centuries back into Europe. Okay?
Old school.
Old school. So,
also, if you have any questions while we're making magic up here, throw them in the comments below, and we'll answer them.
Absolutely.
Anthony will answer them.
Yes. All right, so first thing we need to do is we need to, we're making eggnog, so we need to deal with eggs.
Okay.
All right, so we're going to have 2 eggs. The first thing you have to do is you have to separate eggs. So I'm going to do one, and then I'm going to have you do the other. Now, I'm not an expert at this, but I've done it a few times. So I'm going to show you the way it works for me as someone who doesn't do this all day long, hundreds and hundreds of eggs. So I just like to kind of crack the egg, and you want to make sure you get a nice clean crack on it, and then turn it so that it's vertical, basically, and just peel that top off. And what will happen is the white will start to just roll down into the bowl, and you can catch the yolk. Do you see how I did that? And then you just roll that yolk kind of back and forth, and every time you roll the yolk very gently, you want to not break the yolk, you'll get a little more white in the bowl, and then you end up with basically a nice clean yolk that you can put aside, and then you have your white. Now the key here is to not get yolk into the white.
Then what happens?
Well, it won't be the way you want it to.
Okay.
They're actually, the yolk and the white are made of different things. And
so the textures that are coming out are going to be different.
Yeah, exactly. So yolk in the white is not the greatest thing. The other way around, not so bad. You're always going to get some white in the yolk, no problem. But this is nice, clean white. So go ahead and try that. See how that goes for you. Good.
Got a little break there?
Yeah, that's the trickiest part. You got to hit it hard enough to get the break, but not so hard that it shatters.
Also, try and do it evenly, because now I'm going to have to fit a yolk in a tiny little half. But
there you go. And just let that white go. Just don't even fight it. Yeah, beautiful.
All right. Look at that.
Good.
Boom.
All right. So we did that for you, because it's not the most interesting thing to watch. We did that for you off camera with 2 dozen eggs. All right, and we separated them into whites and yolks, And then what I did was I beat the whites into soft peaks. So I'll show you what that looks like here. And this is a big recipe. This makes 2.5 gallons of eggnog, which is what you're going to want. If you're going to put the effort into making this, you want to go ahead and make a decent amount so it lasts the whole party.
So you can do this by hand with a whisk, but it'll take a long time.
Absolutely. And the preferred bowl to use, you know what they say the preferred bowl to whisk egg whites in is copper. Supposed to, there's an actual chemical reaction that takes place between the egg whites and the copper that makes that makes it happen faster. But with modern appliances, it's not really that big a deal. So why don't you go ahead and just kind of finish that off. Okay. It's just about at soft peaks, as you can see.
And soft peaks is when you're
turn that up a little bit. That little, all the way up.
Ooh, gadgets.
Yeah.
Feel like Inspector Gadget.
Yeah, go all the way down to the bottom of the bowl. Make sure that we're getting any liquids that's settled in there because this has been sitting for a minute.
The soft peaks, I believe, are for when you bring them up.
Yep.
They make like two little mountains.
You got it.
Egg whites.
And what makes it soft is that it doesn't hold its form. You'll pull it out and then it'll droop. A stiff peak, you'll pull it out and it'll hold its form. So that's just about perfect. And this is not rocket science, folks. If you go a little softer or a little firmer, it's not really a big deal. You're going to see what we're going to do with this later. You're going to end up drinking it anyway. All right, so we just kind of prepared that into soft peaks. Now, this is our yolks. And what I did was I like to use an immersion blender for this. And I just kind of beat this until it's pale yellow and smooth. And then we're going to add 1.5 cups of sugar. So go ahead and put that in. And then I want you to incorporate it with the immersion blender.
So with this immersion blender, if you don't have this gadget at home, should I use like a fork or a whisk?
No, you can use a blender like this, or you can just use a whisk. Either way. Cool. The only problem with using a whisk is that it just takes a little longer. So the immersion blender you want to go ahead and put in all the way. And then start whisking it around and let it kind of do its thing. And you'll see it'll incorporate the sugar pretty quickly. And what's going to happen is it's adding some air, which is going to lighten it up, but it's also dissolving that sugar. So the whole thing is going to get a little thicker and a little more pale. So you're ending up with just basically sweetened egg yolks is what you're doing here. Right. Now, somebody mentioned, as I was prepping all this, you can't see, but I have like all of the Spoon University staff around me that have never tried real eggnog. And somebody said, I always thought that you had to use heat. When you told us you were making eggnog, we thought we were going to have like a hot plate or something like that. You actually don't cook the eggs in eggnog. A couple of things you should know about using eggs. One, there is some risk in using raw eggs, so be aware of that. But in today's society especially, it's fairly minimal. The two things that we're doing that make this safe to drink is, one, most of the contamination on the egg is on the shell. It's on the outside of the egg. The inside, which is what we're using, is usually pretty good. But that's not to say there couldn't be cross-contamination. But we are about to add a liter of bourbon, which will effectively disinfect anything in here. Now, again, the FDA and health officials will tell you that's not 100%. So I don't recommend that people with compromised immune systems, pregnant women, anyone who has any kind of health concerns, don't even expose yourself to this risk. There's plenty of other great things you can have during the holiday. But for a healthy individual, this should be completely safe to drink.
Like, think about all the fancy cocktails you have out that have, like, egg whites in them with a little, like,
absolutely.
Yeah.
So go ahead and put that whiskey in there. And I'm using bourbon. Yeah, we're going to go ahead and put a whole liter of bourbon. So that is, that's going to do a pretty good job of taking care of any problems that we have going on in there.
Oh, yeah.
And then I want you to whisk that back up again with our immersion blender.
Ooh.
And I'm going to start clearing some stuff out of your way because we have a lot of things.
That smells more like the eggnog I know and love.
Now, you can use pretty much any spirit that you want. I prefer brandy or whiskey, particularly bourbon. I think the flavors go very well. But American eggnog very commonly was made with rum. Rum was one of the most prevalent spirits in America. In New England, rum was actually used in exchange as a form of currency for a while. You could exchange it directly for gold. So rum is a very American spirit. Most people don't realize that. And especially aged rum makes a beautiful, beautiful eggnog. Okay, looking good?
It looks good to me. It smells awesome.
Okay, so let's go ahead and add now our egg whites. So you have a spatula, and go ahead and just put those in there. And you can see now how, you can see it's not really that critical that we got the peak stiffness 100% right. Okay? So you can go ahead and just kind of fold that in. Yeah. And you want to try and preserve as much of the texture. Look at, you're going to double fist it, aren't you? Or you want me to help?
Well, no, you could correct my mistakes.
No, you're not making any mistakes. This is perfect. So when you're folding, you want to cut through the middle and then bring it towards you and fold it over. And then cut through the middle and then bring it towards you and bring it over. And this isn't, again, folks, this is drinking. It's not rocket science. You really don't want a big glass of foam. So if you end up bursting some of those bubbles, really no big deal. And sometimes if I'm doing this quickly, I'll go ahead and just put the hand blender in there and just kind of get this done. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Looking good? Yeah. Yeah.
What's the difference between an emulsion blender and like a hand mixer? What does it do?
Great. So they both mix the liquids. The immersion blender does exactly what it says. It does it under the liquid level. So it incorporates less air. So the immersion blender is more about just mixing the liquids. If you want to incorporate air, which is what we're doing when we're building peaks, I like to use the hand blender. They'll both work, and I actually started building the peaks with the immersion blender, but it was just taking too long because it doesn't get enough air in as quickly. So really, really good question. The other reason I'm using it here on camera is because, remember, I don't want yolk in my white. So it's convenient to have two tools when you're making this recipe.
No cross-contamination of
Right,
gadgets.
so I don't have to go ahead and put this in there or go ahead and clean it. So it's just kind of nice, and Spoon University was nice enough to get me both, so I thought that was wonderful. Good, so how's that looking?
I mean, it's starting to look like...
Pretty good?
Mixture, yep.
All right, so let's go ahead and just see if you can break up a little bit more of those clumps.
There's some little, yeah, there's some big guys in here.
Yeah, good, good, good. And I have something even better for you than that.
Oh,
I think
yeah?
we dropped on the floor, though. So the whisk is what I actually prefer. I'm just going to rinse this real quick.
Right? If you drop things on the floor, gotta wash them.
Go ahead and try it now. Now that that's folded in, just go ahead and kind of whisk that up a little bit. That's going to be a little bit more consistent.
Oh, yeah.
There you go.
Oh, yeah.
A little bit more consistent texture in there. Oh, that looks wonderful.
And I'm getting a workout.
There we go.
He's done.
Okay, can you see what's happening to it now?
Yeah.
It's getting nice and smooth. All those clumps are breaking up. That's starting to look like something you want to drink.
Now it looks like a liquid. Okay.
Exactly.
It looks less like a chunky potion.
Exactly.
Which it will for a minute. Don't be grossed out.
Right. Okay, good job. How do you like that smell? I wish you guys could smell this.
It smells like my grandma's kitchen.
Good. Mm-hmm. All right, let's now go ahead and I think this bowl is full.
Yes.
So we're going to go ahead and transfer. I'm going to be safe and say we're going to try and do about half of this for now. Cool. We'll save the other half for the staff to drink when we're off camera. Actually, you know what? I think it'll fit, yeah?
Let's do it.
Do it. Let's go for it.
YOLO, as they say.
Anthony, Jillian has a question about your personal cooking. Do you have a particular spatula you like to use?
A particular spatula? You know, if I had a nickel for every time I got that question, I would have 0 nickels. I don't, actually. I don't have a favorite spatula, but now that you say that, I'm going to have to go ahead and look and see if I can find a spatula. I will say, though, for sure, I have unfavorite spatulas. The ones that I can't stand are the hard plastic ones that are kind of semi-transparent. Yeah. I can't stand those.
So these silicone ones, they bend a little bit.
That's the whole key. So I like a spatula, when you kind of flop it around like that, it should move a little bit at the tip, because it's got to adhere to the bowl. So I don't like the stiff plastic ones. I love that question. All right, so here we go. Now we're starting to get some finished looking eggnog. So now we have to go ahead and we need heavy cream is the other thing. Yes. So we have 1 quart of heavy cream, and again we're taking this to stiff peaks. Same exact thing. So I want you to go ahead. I took it almost to stiff peaks for you, and go ahead and finish that off. And this is the exact same theory. I'm sorry, soft peaks, not stiff peaks on this. Soft peaks. And this will take probably 4 to 6 minutes. You want the heavy cream to be cold. The colder it is, the faster this is going to go ahead and form peaks for you.
Great things come to those who wait.
Absolutely.
Be patient, young Jedi.
Absolutely.
Be patient.
Good. And you can see now that's just about holding its form. Mm-hmm. So as you pull that out, that's exactly what you're looking for. Okay, so we'll go ahead and put that in there. And now, oh my goodness, can you believe we're going to drink this?
Beautiful things are happening.
I know.
Beautiful things are happening.
Go ahead and use my now favorite spatula and get the rest of that out there. And I want you to whisk that in, please.
Okay.
Okay? Now, you can see that this is a very low-calorie recipe.
joke.
Right after you make this, I want you to go and renew your gym membership. Hit a spin class, whatever you want to do. All right? And try and get that from the bottom up. Yeah, that whipped cream's going to want to float.
Yes.
There you go.
Okay.
So you're going to go ahead and incorporate that in. Mm-hmm. Beautiful. Now, this is almost done, but it is a little too thick to drink at this point and doesn't have quite enough calories. So we're going to add some whole milk, which is going to, believe it or not, lighten up the texture of this. So we have 1 quart of whole milk, and I'm just going to add that. You keep whisking, and I'm going to, oh my goodness, that looks so good.
It really does. It smells amazing.
Hey, Anthony.
Yeah.
Anne would like to know, do you have to serve eggnog immediately after you make it?
Oh,
or
man.
Can you stick it in the fridge and let it sit for a while?
You guys ask the best questions. So not only do you not have to serve it immediately, but there's an entire group of people that are eggnog aficionados in the world. And you can actually, like, join eggnog fan clubs and stuff and go to YouTube. And the real connoisseur way to drink eggnog is aged eggnog. And you can actually go back to colonial America, and a lot of the founding fathers, like George Washington, had a recipe for his famous eggnog. And what you would do is you would take the eggnog and put it in a sealed container and then store it in usually like a cool, dark cellar, like a wine cellar or a root cellar or something like that. And you would age it for anywhere from a month to 6 or 7 months. But you got to be really careful with that because, again, the alcohol should keep things nice and stable, but you have to be make sure everything is very, very clean. You have to be very careful about the temperature. And then what will happen is the eggnog will actually age, that the ingredients in it will oxidize over time, flavors will develop, things will happen, and the intensity and richness of the flavor will be enhanced. So that's actually the preferred way. So if you really want to make connoisseur's eggnog for Christmas, do this in July. And then go to YouTube and figure out all the cool ways that you can age it.
Maybe if you're not a chem major, get your friend who is a chem major to come help you out with the temperature stuff.
Exactly.
That's what I would do.
So look at that. I mean, that is just,
it's beautiful.
I think that is just phenomenal. And you can see why this became such a popular drink, And again, it's not just a new thing that there were these crazy people crazy about eggnog. In West Point, believe it or not, eggnog was a tradition. All the cadets every year, they would make their celebratory eggnog. In 1826, a new base commander came in and declared alcohol forbidden on campus. And the cadets went nuts Christmas Eve. They actually crossed the Hudson River, stole a bunch of whiskey or bought it, I don't know, brought it back, and they made their eggnog. And then the base commander came in with his troops. There was a whole riot. People were court-martialed, including like a lot of the leaders of the Confederacy, like Robert E. Lee and stuff, that later went on to like lead the Confederacy. It's called the Eggnog Riots, 1826.
The Eggnog Riots.
It's called the Eggnog Riots because that's what happens when you take eggnog away from red-blooded Americans. They riot for it. Okay, so this is it. This wasn't too bad, right?
No, it wasn't.
Okay, so now the only thing we need to do is serve it and top it with a little bit of nutmeg. So why don't you grab that, we'll use that as a
little mug?
Yeah, because I kind of like to make it nice and informal, and I'll take a rocks glass, you take a rocks glass.
All right.
And Anthony, if someone wanted to make this without alcohol, would you just use the same recipe minus the whiskey, or is there other things that you would supplement?
You have to change things if you're not going to use the alcohol because remember we do have raw eggs in there. So that's sort of our safety net. If you are going to make it without alcohol, I would go back to more of a posset or a syllabub recipe. And you can Google syllabub. Syllabubs are eggnogs without egg, basically. It's just whiskey, cream, sugar, spices. You can use beer or cider. Good. Yeah, and syllabubs actually work.
Beer.
Yeah, they work really well, one without alcohol, but you can also use things like non-alcoholic cider. So if you find a syllabub recipe, Syllabub, I believe, find a syllabub recipe that uses cider, for example, and then just substitute non-alcoholic cider, you have a beautiful Christmas drink that doesn't have eggs and doesn't have alcohol.
Sounds good to me.
Spooniverse people ask the best questions. Okay.
You guys know.
So a little bit of nutmeg on top of this, yes?
A little bit of nutmeg.
Just a dash.
A little.
And if this was me, I would like to use fresh nutmeg, but, you do what you can.
You do what you can.
And happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
Let's see how we did.
We're gonna...
First of all. Okay, you get the nose on that is just like ridiculous, right?
Oh, yeah. Okay, we're going to need more people to come and try this right now. Like,
who has never tried eggnog? Come on.
Had eggnog.
Come on.
It's not a party. Anthony and I can't drink all this ourselves.
Here, I have to
Gotta squeeze in the frame.
Spoon that
There
out.
you
Let me see
go.
if I can find some more cups over here. We'll just use whatever.
Mason
I can
jars,
find.
whatever's lying
I
around.
don't care.
It smells
Sam.
That's a lot.
Let me
it's
get some
everywhere.
nutmeg
it's not
for you.
Oh, squeeze in.
All right.
Got
There
the
you
new
go. There you go. Do any guys work at Spoon University? Because
I think.
All right.
I think this one.
there we go.
Hey.
I was wondering.
And what better mug to drink out of than the American flag?
Let me get you a little bit here.
I'd love some.
Here, bring it up.
Yeah.
Kind
There
of looks
we
like
go.
it looks like
Thank you.
pancake batter.
It does look like pancake batter because
Also,
you know why? The ingredients are almost the same. If you put
Cheers.
flour in there and put it on a griddle, you're good to go.
We're just gonna drink some pancakes.
Cheers, yeah.
It's fine.
Alrighty.
So cheers.
So what do we think of our first homemade eggnog?
It's strong.
Oh,
Love
it
the
is
bourbon.
There's some
perfect.
alcohol in
You
there.
can see why we're not really worried about the eggs.
I can't go back to store bought now.
Yep.
Can't go back.
It's like I can breathe fire. It kind of tastes like you put Fireball in pancakes.
Fireball
I like that.
whiskey
Yeah.
in pancake.
That's
We
very
have-
college
we actually
friendly.
have
I was-
With the whipped cream on top. Nick.
like Fireball,
Very on
and you're
brand.
gonna love this.
Very demographic
Okay,
friendly
cool.
for sure.
So I'm on with 2 thumbs up all the way around.
Oh, yeah. I have a
hope so.
question.
Yes.
Is nutmeg or not nutmeg? Is eggnog usually served cold or room temperature?
It's usually served chilled.
Okay.
So most of the ingredients that we use came out of the fridge, but then
Right.
by the time you're doing everything you're doing,
Gotcha.
they kind of come up to room temperature. So if you notice,
Okay.
we don't put ice in there,
Right.
and
Yeah.
this is going to be completely fine for the length of a party. If you have extra, go ahead and refrigerate it for
Okay.
the next day.
Cool.
Cool.
Mackenzie in the audience is so convinced she's gonna make this tonight.
Cheers. You throw yourself a party, girl.
Another foolproof Anthony Caparelli recipe.
Executed by the great JD.
Cheers to that.
Happy
we'll see you
holidays,
next
everyone.
week.